Welcome, everyone! Today we're going to break down how dictionaries are made, which will be absolutely essential for getting you ready for your upcoming test. Here's our roadmap for today's session. We're going to cover 5 key areas, and believe me, all of them are crucial for your exam.
Okay, let's dive right in. We'll start with the absolute fundamentals of what a definition is even trying to do. This is the foundation for everything else we'll talk about.
Now notice the 2 main types of definitions you'll see. On the left, you've got the concise phrase definition, and on the right, a full sentence. That sentence style often feels more like a teacher explaining it, doesn't it? Well, that's often intentional, especially in learners' dictionaries, to make it a bit more accessible.
This here is the classic approach. It's called an analytical definition. The idea is really simple. First, you tell you what group something belongs to. For example, a dictionary is a reference book. And then you explain what makes it special or different from all the other things in that group.
Now for the really interesting part, how definitions can go wrong. Pay close attention here, because identifying these common flaws is something you're definitely going to see on the test.
Okay, flaw number 1 is obscurity. This is when the definition is actually more complicated than the words you're trying to look up. I mean, look at this definition for air. Sure, it's scientifically accurate, but for everyday language, it's not very helpful, is it? It actually makes it harder to understand.
And this is a classic exam trap. It's called circularity. A word is defined by a synonym, which is then defined by the original word, creating this useless circle. You look up courageous, and it says brave. Then you look up brave, and it points you to bold, and then bold points you right back to courageous. You end up right where you started.
And this brings us to the final major flaw, inaccuracy. This can happen in 2 ways. A definition might be too broad, like defining a cashier as a person in charge of cash. Well, that could also describe a bank manager, couldn't it? Or it can be too narrow. Look at appointment. What if you arrange for them to see you? That's an appointment too, but this definition misses it.
So if definitions can have so many problems, if they can be obscure, circular, or inaccurate, it raises a pretty important question. Who is making these calls? Is it all just random?
Let's move on and see how this all comes together. It's not the dictionary deciding anything, it's the lexicographers. These are the people who actually compile the dictionaries, and their expert judgment is behind every page.
You can think of them as the architects of the dictionary. They're making critical judgments about our language at every single step of the way.
And they don't just guess what words to include. They have a whole system. They keep the common core words from one edition to the next, and they add new, specialized words they find through these huge reading programs where they scan tons of books, newspapers, and magazines.
This is where the real challenge lies, and it's a topic you'll absolutely want to understand for the exam. How do you actually structure all this information?
Let's start with what seems like a simple question, but it has a surprisingly complex answer if you're a dictionary maker. Is EAR one word or 2?
The answer is 2. That's because they're homographs, words that are spelled the same but come from 2 totally different words in Old English. So because they have different histories, they're treated as 2 separate words and get their own entries.
But the bigger challenge, the thing that really keeps lexicographers up at night, is when it's clearly one word that has many related meanings. This concept is called polysemy, and it's their toughest task.
Just take a look at the noun sound. Here we have 2 different major dictionaries. You'd think they'd be pretty similar, right? But they came up with completely different ways to slice and dice its meaning. This really shows you how much human judgment goes into the process.
So once they decide on all the different senses, they have to put them in some kind of order. They can either list the most common meaning first, that's the frequency principle, or they can list them based on which one developed first historically.
All right, let's do a quick cram session. These are the absolute key takeaways for your test. Everything we've discussed boils down to these points. So, the most crucial point here is that dictionaries are not just objective facts. They are carefully curated by experts who are making judgments based on evidence. So remember, definitions can have flaws, lexicographers are the human beings making the calls, splitting up meanings is one of their hardest jobs, and the order of those meanings is a conscious choice. And today, they base those choices on evidence from massive text databases called Corpora.
I'll leave you with this final thought to consider. It's a fundamental question in this field. Are dictionaries just a record of how we actually speak, or are they a guide for how we should speak? Think about that.
Okay, good luck with your studies.